let's dive a little bit deeper into what is a virtual quality company. Can tell me, and maybe I'll ask you the questions maybe naturally. Does that literally mean your entire quality function is virtual? And I mean, what does that actually mean for manufacturing? Are all these elements of your business in different places?
Mm.
Is that a fair question?
Yeah, I think that is a fair question to ask. Actually, the conceptual idea of virtual quality, it can be sort of nebulous in this way. It may be every facet of a quality organization that's required to produce and release a finished product. It may be certain aspects of it that are virtual in this case, meaning not necessarily located where you may be. And then there's complexities associated with the modern world and be able to move products around out of the geography that they may be manufactured in or that the service may be required in, so that there's an actual geographic component to a virtual organization as well in this case. Like we teased before, there may be specializations and expertise that is not in the geography where you're located. Your site may not have that expertise. You may choose to outsource part of that. So when we say virtual quality, it generally could be one specific function that you're outsourcing. It may be an entire QMS structure, which isn't necessarily recommended in that way, but it certainly could be. There are certain instances in which where it does make sense in the development of a product. You may choose to, go to a site that basically is an entire package, so they can do the development work. They can do the protocols associated for it. They can do the testing associated for it, right? So you're outsourcing not only the development of the product, but everything that goes with the outsourcing development of their product, including that firm's quality management systems. So it may be that you don't have that expertise within your organization. It may be that it exists somewhere else in a different geography. It may be your intention to place that product into that geography, and it may make practical sense to certainly have that expertise somewhere where you aren't in that
Yeah.
case.
Maybe you just, as we saw in the pandemic,
Yeah,
speed was more important than
yeah,
almost anything. It literally meant saving lives, right?
yeah,
That we were able
absolutely.
to, erect these companies, get drug product out. I think that the pandemic has changed our industry. I mean, it's documented in ways that we're still not very clear in understanding. But I think one of the great aspects of outsourcing quality per se is you can outsource to a group of individuals who are true experts, not only in quality, but who are business experts who can stand up a QMS in a shorter time frame than if you had to pool talent, hire them, get them to work together in a traditional brick and mortar. If speed was something that was important to you, I think standing up, a virtual quality company could, organization for your company could very well be beneficial and get you the correct right first time structure, the right level of release requirements, the right level of validation, the right level of oversight to the processes, especially if you're outsourcing the manufacturing part or the development part. You want that quality oversight.
Yeah.
You want the people that you put in that quality oversight to be seasoned, to be mature, to be asking the right questions, and to be making sure that the right systems are in place so that you can actually go as fast as you feasibly can. So I think that's really important to say. So you mentioned some examples of outsourced quality functions in the intro.
Mhm.
I want to talk about cleaning.
Mm.
Let's talk about cleaning because I feel like that's one of, at least in aseptic processing and sterile manufacturing, one of the more common outsourcing quality functions. And I feel like there are a lot of groups that do cleaning really well.
Mhm.
I think there are some groups who do not do it very well. And I think, how do you select a vendor to outsource something as important as cleaning? And
Yeah.
what are the things to think about? Because me, again, when I was talking about being vulnerable as a company, letting people into a clean room environment, into my aseptic core, that makes me anxious and I feel vulnerable. And so how do you select the right partner for that?
That is a great question. I've been on projects previously where cleaning has been outsourced to third parties. And, it generally starts with, let's just say, the non-classified areas types of cleaning. And then they're like, hey, well, if you do that, could you potentially go into our classified areas and clean those? Well, there's an absolute training component associated with cleaning classified areas, right? It's not just the ability that someone can learn a process to be able to clean it. You have to have an understanding of aseptic processes and behaviors. You have to have an understanding of contamination control. And so just to outsource cleaning of a classified area, your most precious environment, or even beyond that, are they cleaning in isolators or within a critical process zone? There's an absolute training component to this that you can't underestimate. And so, first and foremost, they could say that they can clean it, but they have to demonstrate that they can do so. These individuals would still have to go through all the required qualifications to be able to get into those environments first and foremost, right? So they have to have an understanding of, also, if they're preparing these sanitization agents, what do those records look like? What does documentation look like? It's not just the physical cleaning, that you have to have assurance that they can do it consistently every time, but it's everything that goes, with it. They may even have to document things in a batch record, for line clearances and cleaning as well. So they have to have a good understanding of good documentation practices. They have to have an understanding of potentially the validation of the cleaning agent itself, and how we qualify these individuals to be able to perform those things consistently every time. I was on a project also where let's say the contract provider, the site, just assumed that the cleaning third party, or the third party cleaning organization, was going to clean these areas. Right. And they weren't actually. And
quality agreement.
But not only that, they had procedures in place that the third party cleaning organization didn't know applied to them.
Yeah.
So there was this sort of mismatch about what each other was expecting to do, what they were doing. And to your point, going back to the quality agreement associated with that. And so it was one of those things where I was just looking at documentation for, cleaning of an incubator, which this third-party organization was supposed to do. It's part of, your requirements to do it periodically. They didn't know that they were supposed to do it. Yeah. And by the way, that's important to have that understanding about, qualifications and responsibilities to be able to do so. And so I have seen outsourced cleaning, more often in sort of those support areas. But to your point, man, if you're going to bring people in to clean classified environments, with material transfers and airlocks and going towards, your critical spaces with an isolator, so hopefully everyone's using isolators, that, it becomes critically important. You can't, an oversight is important as well with these organizations. They have to be responsible and accountable to someone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not, you bring up a good point. Oversight is not like, okay, here's the quality agreement, do it. Call me when there's a problem.
Right.
There needs to be constant oversight, especially people entering your clean room. So a lot of what you mentioned, I think, goes beyond even training. Right. There needs to be, for something as important, vital, critical as aseptic cleaning. I mean, they're essentially operators. They're in the critical spaces.
Yeah, they're gowned.
They need to be educated. They need to know contamination control. They need to know GMPs. They need to know that. And this is not a contractor type of situation. This is a relationship that a company has with a cleaning group. And that relationship is important. And that people are going to show up for you. They're going to do the job right. You have oversight of them. And it's not a contentious relationship either. This is like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in the critical area where, there's real drug products being manufactured for patients, and that matters. So yeah, it's ironically one of the things I see the most outsourced. But to me, it's one of the most vulnerable moments for a company, because as a microbiologist, I want to know that my facility is clean.
Yeah.
When I start manufacturing and filling product, I want to know that I'm starting from a place of cleanliness and that I can trust people to clean the wall, to apply the correct order and sequence of disinfectants, to rinse them, right? I mean, it's just like
Right.
that is a huge vulnerability. So, and cleaning is not cleaning, honey. It is
Right.
not the same. So
Right.
we're like, oh, these are not janitors. These are not,
Right.
custodians. These are not, folks who, clean your apartment or whatever it is. Like these are educated and highly critical people. So yeah, I love that. It always goes back to the quality agreement and oversight. So for sure. Well,
Yeah,
that's
I think
great.
that's a great point. It's scary to think on that if they don't have that education background and experience, how do you get them that
I think
background and
it's your job
experience?
as a company.
Right.
I think it's your job. I don't think
Yeah.
you can outsource the execution of the function, but owning the same level. I mean, they've got to be gown qualified, right?
Yep.
They've got to be properly trained. They've got to have a core understanding of GMPs. I mean, these are, documentation practices. I mean, which is wild because you do all this investment into
Right.
a partnership like a cleaning company.
And,
And then, I mean, you might as well just have that in-house. So it's such a conundrum. I feel there are a lot of pros and cons. And I don't know, it depends on the organization and what they need and access
mhm.
to those types of people. But that's great. That wraps us up for our first vlog on virtual
Cool.
quality companies. Thank you, Brian. That's fantastic.